Hello and welcome to another episode of the Please Bet on Football Games podcast, here with the penultimate episode of the off-season edition. I am your host, Alex, here with the on-air talent, Joe. Joe, coming off a hot weekend of betting. How are you doing?
I'm doing about like 72% ROI is how I'm doing.
Is that good?
Fantastic. I just want to say quickly, thank you to all of the stalkers and haters. I hate using the word haters, but there's really no other way to describe what they are, who basically tried to shame and bully me into doubling my unit sizes this year. And then I did it. And then I immediately reaped the benefits by going 5-1 on preseason sides in week 1. So that's good. That's pretty good. If you would like to tail, go to the Patreon, free Patreon. And in the preseason, even the picks are free Patreon.
Free Patreon. No cost.
But most people think that betting on the preseason is for degenerates. I don't understand why. Therefore, we should probably get into some stuff that'll help them in the regular season.
Yeah, let's talk about a little bit of NFC West.
Oh, also note, this intro has been excellent, so we're going to keep it. But this is not the penultimate. This is the penultimate to the penultimate because we have 2 more, so we can do the entire East, AFC and NFC.
Oh, right. I forgot.
And they're both, unfortunately, intriguing divisions, so we have to do 2 pods. It's okay. It'll get us through preseason.
What's the word for third to last? Is there a word?
Well, I've always called the day before an eve an Adam. So like December 23rd is Christmas Adam. This is the Adam.
Sure. I've never heard that before. Is that something you came up with, or was that something?
It's like picking nits. Adam and Eve, Eve, Adam. Yep.
Fair enough. All right. Well, off of that riveting start, let's jump into a little bit of football. First up, let's talk about a little bit of the Arizona Cardinals. Of course, going in reverse order of win totals, these guys are up first, though technically they're tied with a projected win total of 7.5.
Yeah, I know how I'm betting this one, but we'll go through, we'll do the thing, we'll grade all the position groups and all the players. But this one's going to probably be an under. All right.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, just when we guess, just when we pull up the teams, we'll do a little bit of like our general feel for what the number should be. And I think I said 4.5 and 5.5.
Yep.
Well, I don't know what you said. And then it's 7.5. So let's talk about the skill positions.
All right.
Big addition. One addition.
We talk about basically every week now how when it comes to defensive linemen and skill position players on offense, it's like a sword. You only need one sharp edge on a sword to have a good sword, whereas other positions are like a net. If you have one missing hole in your net, you can't catch anything. Marvin Harrison is a very, very pointy edge on that sword. But outside of him, we're left with Trey McBride, who's mid. We're left with Greg Dortch, who's tiny and kind of fun, but not a real wide receiver too. And then something called Michael Wilson. Not something. He was, I guess, kind of a rookie standout last year out of Stanford. He's a 3rd-round pick. He's not a very exciting player. He's consistent. If you take away Marvin Harrison, this receiving core is putrid. But if you add in Marvin Harrison, who I expect to be a top 5 wide receiver tomorrow, maybe yesterday, it becomes okay. So I give like their receivers as a whole unit are a B, maybe even a B plus, just because I think Marvin Harrison's an A plus guy. And then their receiving core in total is certainly a B because just everything is dragging Marvin Harrison down.
Yeah, I mean, that's a rough room. Like, it's a bunch of guys that are either on like the tail end of their career. It's like that has-beens or never will be's, and then Marvin Harrison. Now, Marvin Harrison, I agree. I mean, he looks incredible. He's looked incredible since he started playing at Ohio State. But he's going to be double covered like every play, isn't he?
Yeah, you have to double him. And then behind him, I just looked it up. Zay Jones is 29 years old and in his 8th year of being a project wide receiver. I don't think he's going to figure it out, Alex. I think this might just be it for him. Yeah, and then like Zach Pascal, nothing. Michael Wilson from Stanford, not very athletic, mediocre at best. Greg Dortch, tiny. Really all he can do is explode with the ball in his hands. Okay. I'm not moved. To the offensive line, a year or two ago, I would have said this is the worst offensive line in the league, or at least close. But they very quickly rebuilt it. I'm actually impressed with what they've done. Paris Johnson is a good tackle. Jonah Williams is a solid tackle. Okay, Hjalti Froholt at center. Most people are going to say, what the hell is a Hjalti? Hjalti. And why is he starting? I actually personally like Hjalti Froholt. I think he's a really good mover. I think he's going to be a good fit at center. And he also got some of that Bill Callahan seasoning in Cleveland. I like him. I think he can be fine. I think he can be a C plus, B minus guy. Will Hernandez will never learn how to play football despite being so mean and strong. And then Evan Brown is bad. So their guards are bad. Their center may be bad, but has a decent chance to be good, or at least decent. And then their tackles are legit good. Overall, that's the worst possible way you can build an offensive line for a 5'8" quarterback.
Yeah. And just like Froholt, I think his ceiling is fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's going to be good.
No.
I think his best chance is like he's not a gaping hole.
Yeah.
But that interior line is rough.
Yeah.
I think B minus is his absolute ceiling.
Verbal meme, it's the black strong hand.
We're picking nits.
Verbal meme is the black strong guy hand and then the white strong guy hand, and they're clasping and shaking. And it's the white one, I guess, will be Trevor Penning, and the black one will be Will Hernandez, and the hands will be fucking run blocking and just nothing else at all ever one time. Because Will Hernandez is really disappointed.
Yeah. I mean, he's huge and so strong and plays with that edge you like out of guards.
And he was a Brandon
really anyone
favorite
in the trenches.
Yep.
But yeah, he just has not figured it out. Now, granted, maybe being out of New York will help because they've seemed to just have line problems for the last, 6 years.
They almost ruined Andrew Thomas, who's a very, very good player. But I think that Will Hernandez played in Arizona last year and wasn't good.
No, never mind then.
We have the technology. We can research this. He did and he wasn't. Although he flipped.
He was 2 years.
He pass blocked last year and didn't run block. So egg on my face. Although it is PFF, take it with a grain of salt. Overall, offensive line doesn't make a lot of sense, especially considering who their quarterback is going to be. And the wide receivers kind of suck aside from stud Marvin Harrison. Not a lot of reason for hope. I do like James Conner. I think he's very underrated as a back. I think he's a B to B plus running back. Like he's a good starter. But running backs don't matter that much. It's all going to boil down to the quarterback. And I think people forget that Kyler Murray is just like not good and never really has even sniffed being good in the NFL.
Yeah, at absolute most, he's been exciting.
He's very exciting, but the deep ball sucks. He can't throw over the middle of the field because he literally cannot get the ball over his offensive line, even to the extent he can see over his offensive line, which I can't imagine he does either. He's very fast, but he's no longer in a spread out offense that allows him to utilize that. Like under Cliff Kingsbury, everything was shotgun, 4 and 5 wide receiver sets, quick screens and deep shots and quarterback runs. That is the perfect way to utilize Kyler Murray to the extent you have to use Kyler Murray. Now with Preetzing, I don't know how to say his name, but he's a Cleveland guy. He likes West Coast. He wants to get wide zone. He wants to throw short balls. He wants to do play action. He wants Kyler Murray under center on his tippy toes trying to receive the ball from underneath his center's crotch. That's just terrible. It's a terrible scheme fit for this quarterback. I don't want to say I'm smelling disaster, but I smell disappointment for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason for any sort of optimism is that they were somewhat competitive last year, despite not having Marvin Harrison or Kyler. And so you go, okay, maybe Gannon's a good coach and can get a little extra juice. But I don't know, man. It's a rough looking unit. It's one very good player, maybe 3 that you think are like legitimate starters, and then a bunch of dudes that you would rather have on the bench.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see how this is a 7.5 win team on offense. That's for damn sure. Shall we flip to the other side of the ball?
Let's.
All right. Moving to the defense, I'm going to read you their defensive line. They run a 3-4 technically, so I'll read 5 defensive linemen / linebackers, and you stop me when you hear one who should be starting. Bilal Nichols, Roy Lopez, Justin Jones, Dennis Gardeck, Zaven Collins. I think Zaven Collins could start.
Yeah, I think Zaven Collins, like he's still young. He's got some pop to him.
Honestly, he's an off-ball linebacker. I don't want him rushing the passer. That's not what he's best at. But like, yeah, Dennis Gardeck, he got a decent sack total last year, but I think all of them came against Sam Howell and the Redskins, who like still don't have an offensive line. Justin Jones as a 3/4 tech is fine, but yeah, no, it's not good. I don't really know how this works for them. They overdrafted Darius Robinson in the first round, who is a 24-year-old, I believe, defensive end out of Mizzou, who's not very fast and he has no bend and he's not very twitchy and he's not that powerful. So that'll work out great, I'm sure. Yeah, no. So the defensive line is going to be bad. And then their off-ball linebackers are scheduled to be Kaiser White and Mac Wilson.
That's a rough front seven.
I'm pretty sure that their interior linebackers are just the former. No, Mac Wilson. Did Mac Wilson go to Philly for like a week?
I don't think so. I think
no, he went straight to New England. But anyway,
yeah.
So they have two really good backups as their starters in the middle. So their front seven, dirty asshole.
It might be the worst we've talked about so far.
It certainly must be. Surely the secondary is the strength, right? No, the secondary up until very recently was the weakest part, which is startling. On the outside, we're going to have Max Melton and Sean Murphy Bunting. Sean Murphy Bunting, who just got ran out of Tennessee because he couldn't play average football, and Max Melton, who I don't think I graded. There's a good reason for that. I only graded like 8 cornerbacks. So that's not inspiring a ton of hope. And then in the slot, you've got Garrett Williams. Who? Exactly. And then their safeties are Budda Baker, legit good, a little overrated, but legit good, and Jalen Thompson. I'm not going to do the legit good for Jalen Thompson. So this defense is fucking nasty asshole.
Yeah, it might be worse than the offense because they don't even have like a stud player.
So my question is, how in God's holy name does this team get to 5 wins, much less 8?
I don't know.
I don't either, and that's why I hear ka-chings in the background. This is going to be a best bet.
Yeah, I think this one has to make it.
Cardinals under 7.5. Cha-ching, because I don't want to edit it in post. Yeah, that's a best bet.
Yeah, I think I like that. I might like that as much as Tennessee.
I was going to say, is that a 3-unit play or a 2-unit play?
I think probably 2.
Okay. Yeah, no, we could waste a lot of time sitting here stunned in bewilderment, but I think instead we should move on to the next team.
Yeah, let's. Next up, we have the Seattle Seahawks, also with a projected win total of 7.5 wins.
All right, so I forgot to do this for the last team. Arizona, Vegas, and media outlets have ranked as the 26th team in the NFL. So the 6th worst team supposed to have almost a 500 record. I have them both in the algorithm and manually at 31. So it makes sense that we're probably going to be betting the under on that one. Seattle, the media and Vegas have ranked 22nd, so slightly better than Arizona, but not a ton. I have them in both the algorithm and manually at 17, so I'm much more optimistic than they are.
I have a feeling I know why that is, but we'll get to that.
But believe it or not, it's not. I don't think that'll ever materialize. But no, so just the fact that my 31st ranked team and my 17th ranked team have the same win total, now you understand why this is my favorite division in football. This division is going to pay my ass. So let us talk about how. Starting with receivers, Seattle is addicted to wide receivers. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, still going strong. He's probably got another 2 years in him, maybe. Jackson Smith-Njigba. I didn't like Jackson Smith-Njigba coming out of college. I thought he was way overvalued going top 15, top 10 maybe even. I thought that was ridiculous. But as a third receiver, it's fantastic. His speed is the problem, but it doesn't matter when he's out of the slot. He's a great route runner. He's got good hands, decent size, perfect fit. Jake Bobo is a depth receiver, probably the best hands in the NFL. Does run slower than most offensive tackles. Doesn't matter. Laviska Shenault as an out of the backfield yak type. D. Eskridge as a returner and deep threat. They're 6 deep with dudes who I think legitimately can help your team. That's nuts. Also, Noah Fant. Will this be the year that he puts it together and turns his incredible size and speed into being a decent tight end? The answer probably will continue to be no, just like Kyle Pitts. There is more to football. It's not basketball.
Yeah, I mean, it's a deep room with a lot of very good guys that fill different roles. We talk about having those kind of like the versatility in the wide receiver room, and they definitely have that with all very good guys to fill each of those roles in terms of your slot guy and Jackson Smith and Jigba. And then you have DK and Tyler Lockett that can both stretch the field, but do slightly different and do it in slightly different ways, and you can use them differently. It's a good room.
It's a fucking good room. And this new offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubbs, the joke is that he comes from Washington. And the joke is that he plays or he coaches like most people play Madden because he loves four verts. So you're going to have Tyler Lockett, speedy as all hell, going deep. DK Metcalf, freak of nature, Trent, very tall and fast, going deep. You're going to have Jackson Smith and Jigba running the deep over or the sail route underneath, trying to pick apart zones. And then pick, you want Jake Bobo for jump balls. You want D. Eskridge for speed. You got options. It's sick. I give their receiving core A-, B+. It totally depends on Noah Fant. I think he's a C+ player. If he can blossom into an average starter, this is an A- core. If not, tough to say.
I think it's A- anyway. With those three receivers.
Yeah. I think Njigba is like a B player, but as a third receiver, a B player is really helpful.
Exactly. And I think he fits in well in terms of being able to go underneath and be a safety valve when you have Metcalf and Lockett going deep and stretching defenses.
I totally agree. Okay, the offensive line is going to be like the real question, the scary part. Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas are sick offensive tackles. I don't want to hear anybody argue. They're sick. That's an awesome duo, and they're both in their third year. I often say that Duke Tobin is the only GM that I respect. That's wrong because I respect the shit out of John Snyder. He took a few years off where he was just terrible, but he's back and he's built this team so well. The interior is where they really struggled last year. Seattle's offensive line was not great last year. They gave up interior pressure. Abraham Lucas got hurt, but they've replenished. They got Laken Tomlinson, the definition of a journeyman, to play right guard or left guard, C+, B-. They got Connor Williams from Miami, who is coming off an injury, which is why he just got signed, and it's why he only got a short, cheap deal. But Connor Williams is a really good center, a B+ center. I love him. And he's got some versatility. He's literally started at all 5 positions in the last 4 years. So he's good.
He just keeps getting hurt.
He keeps getting hurt. And then, right guard, Anthony Bradford. That is a problem. They also drafted Christian Haynes this year. Maybe he can steal the spot. Either way, I'm not thrilled with right guard. 4 out of 5 ain't bad. I mean, we just went through the Cardinals where it's like maybe 2 of these guys are okay. This is 4 out of 5's fine.
And they have a weaker interior, but I like Connor Williams more than I like Froholt.
Same. A lot same.
And then, both don't really have much going on at guard. But again, I'd say Seattle's probably a little bit better. Like, it's a little more stable.
We know that Laken Tomlinson won't blow up your offense. He's been many places where he is certainly not the problem. He's never the solution, but he's not the problem. He's like the Teddy Bridgewater of guards.
Yeah, so I think it's a fine line. And you have, Geno, who's a bigger quarterback. And even if Howell goes in, which who knows, he's not huge. What is he, 6'1"?
Yeah.
6 foot, something like that. But it's not 5'8". And so I think having a weaker interior doesn't hurt you as much with this team.
No, I totally agree. And Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet are both really good pass blocking running backs. So you'll be able to max protect a little bit. I think that they will be just fine. Hey, remember when Noah Fant and George Kittle went to the same, TJ Hawkinson went to the same college at the same time, played on the same team, and Fant was considered the better one for a long time?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like even during that draft, you knew that Hawkinson was more well-rounded. Like, he could block. He was a little bit better of a route runner. But Fant was just such an athletic freak that still produced that you were like, if we can coach him up and get him in an NFL offense, he's going to be insane. No. And they both kind of stayed that. It's just Fant hasn't ever actually
learned how to play football.
Yeah, he hasn't reached any of that potential, whereas Hawkinson has just kind of excelled in that role.
So we've established we like the offensive coordinator. We really like the receivers. We don't mind the line. You said that it's a fine offensive line. I think the exact same thing. I gave it a B. Like, it is fine. That leaves us with the quarterback. And look, yeah, I'm very fond of Sam Howell. I don't think there's really a chance that Sam Howell plays this year unless there's an injury.
I agree.
Like Geno Smith is the entrenched starter. He's been there 2 years now. He's in a contract year. I would imagine that he is tight with the team and like in a leadership position by this point. Although IK Enikpali might disagree. Geno Smith is a perfectly fine quarterback. Like he is a solid, legitimately plus starter. I think he's a top 15 guy. I don't think he's good. Like I don't think Geno Smith's not carrying you anywhere, but I don't think that Geno Smith hurts you. And occasionally Geno Smith will have a sick game. There are teams that win with a lot less, put it that way. In the event that Sam Howell does have to play, I think that this is an infinitely better situation for him than Washington last year. Howell is a strong-armed quarterback who excels at throwing the deep ball and has below average pocket awareness. And last year he was in an offense that throws lots of short passes and has no offensive line. Here, he will be in a vertical offense that has a decent offensive line. It would be like night and day a better situation. But again, I don't think it'll come to fruition. Geno Smith's been banged up lately, so you got to talk about the backup. Like Geno Smith hasn't practiced in like a week or two. And if you have a hip and knee issue before the season starts, typically those don't get better.
Exactly. Like you're about to start taking hits every single week by 300-pound guys. Like it's just going to get worse. So that's why I think Howell still has a decent chance of playing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think he's going to play a ton of games just because I feel like Geno has a lot of those where he misses a week or two here and there throughout the year, but he's normally pretty durable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the only other way is if the season goes really poorly.
Yeah.
And they're into week 11 and they've won 2 games, then Howell might start playing. But yeah, as long as they have guys where, the offense has younger players, but they still have guys like Tyler Lockett. And then the defense is a little bit older where maybe they want to push now and they're not going to give a ton of playing time to the, second-year player?
Yeah. All right. So we've established we really like the offense. And even if their quarterback, who's had injury problems in the news lately, even if he goes down, we still like this offense a lot. Good offensive coordinator, good personnel. The defense last year was okay, but spotty. And look, I'm notorious for hating defensive head coach hires. But if you're going to get one, this McDonald is the guy to get.
Yeah.
Coming over from Baltimore, where he ran a totally unique defense in an era where everybody runs one of 3 defenses. Like everybody runs just cover 2 every snap, Leslie Frazier, Matt Eberflus, or they run cover 4 every snap, Vic Fangio, Gannon, Brandon Staley, etc. Or there's like 3 of them that run exotic, complicated shit, like Brian Flores, Lou Anarumo, different kinds of shit, but exotic. And then Steve Spagnuolo runs all of it, which is why he's great. Mike McDonald did his totally own thing. He's going... It's hard to explain. So he used Kyle Hamilton like a linebacker, but he technically is a safety. So it's technically a 3-3-5, but it's more like a 3-4-4, but it's really just 3 fucking big dudes who stuff the run up front, 2 middle linebackers who run around doing whatever the hell they want, and 2 outside backers who power rush. It is predicated on stopping the run first, and that is why, go look it up, last year, Mike McDonald and the Ravens defense had the Shanahan offense's number. And this year, he gets to play 4 games against Shanahan offenses in McVay and Shanahan himself. That is beneficial to the Seattle Seahawks, that their defensive coach, their head coach, is particularly good at stopping this offense that has taken over the NFL and most teams run some version of now.
Yeah, and they made a couple big additions this offseason on the defensive side of the ball that might be able to help instill that defensive vision.
I don't know if you intended to do that, but big is the key motherfucking word. Okay, Jaron Reed's been there for a long time. Really good defensive tackle. In this scheme, he's going to be a, quote, defensive end, but he's a defensive tackle. They got Leonard Williams from the Giants. That's a sick defensive tackle. He's sick defensive tackle. Then their third defensive tackle, their nose tackle, is either Jonathan Hankins, who he's become our generation's Snacks Harrison, where it's like, he's just big and stuffs the run. That's it. He can't do anything else, but he will stuff that run. So he's at least a solid player who serves exactly the function they would want him to, or better yet, Byron Murphy, a sick 3 technique, who will probably slide outside, and then you'd probably slide Jaron Reed inside, if you ask me. They are 3 to 4 deep with sick defensive linemen for this particular scheme. Like that's 4 defensive tackles who should start on most teams.
I mean, I think Draymond Jones serves a really good role in that defense too, where he can be a little bit of that wider option that gives you a little bit of a pass rush.
So that's the cool thing is that like typically if I saw Draymond Jones as a starting defensive end, I would be like, ew, that's bad. But knowing that this defense is predicated on your defensive line stops the run and your blitzing linebackers and defensive backs get the sacks, yeah, he's exactly what they want. He is a tough, stout dude who will power rush the edge. Maybe he gets pressure, but he certainly stops the run. Uchenna Nwosu is kind of the opposite. He's a speedster. Boye Mafe, their rotational edge, speedster. I don't know how that gets used, but if I'm going to trust somebody to utilize these very athletic but undersized pass rushers, it's the defensive genius.
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar to what the Baltimore defense looked like, where they had a bunch of big guys up front. They had some, defensive end, defensive tackle hybrids, and then a few linebackers or off-ball rushers that were just nothing but speed. And they just deploy them based on the situation. And it was incredibly effective.
I mean, the one difference is that whereas the Ravens had 2 very fast, well, okay, so Patrick Queen's not good, but people think he's good because he's fast. And then Roquan Smith is legitimately very good, especially in a sheltered role in a 3-4 where like he doesn't have to worry about boundaries. He can just roam the middle and wreak havoc. Jerome Baker and Tyrell Dodson are much lesser players. Like they are B- players at best. Jerome Baker's coming off an injury. He put some things together in Miami. Like he finally started to come on and deliver on all that promise with his excellent athleticism. Tyrell Dodson coming from Buffalo is more of a smart, can run player, but not great in space. Either way, expect them to blitz a lot. Don't expect them to cover a ton. That is to both of their benefit. Like that is what both of them do best. I think the front 7, it's not great yet, but it's good, and it's good for what they do.
Yeah, I think it's built very well for what they want to do. Obviously, the linebackers are a little weak, but I think Jerome Baker, if he's ever going to kind of hit on all of that hype that he's had for so many years, it's in a defense like this where he can just be athletic in that Patrick Queen role.
Yep.
Now, yeah, they have a big drop off at middle linebacker, but yeah, that part's tough. But they have a lot of really good players at other spots that can make his life easier.
Yeah.
But that is the big hole if you're looking at the front 7.
Here's the way I look at it. You got a bright defensive coordinator, and then just looking at personnel, not looking at scheme, you can't run on that front 3/front 4 we talked about. You can't run on them. So you got to pass now. And if you're going to try to pass, here's where the fun begins. Tyreek Woolen, he's got his warts, right? The man gets lost sometimes, but he is 6'4" and ridiculously fast and ridiculously quick. He's a solid starting cornerback with potential to eventually become incredible. Devin Witherspoon, this man is a dream come true. You know who he reminds me of is Antoine Winfield, because he hits like crazy. He's small, but he hits like crazy. I mean, he's not even small. He's like 5'10", but he's skinny. And he's very fast, and he's super responsible, and he's especially great in the slot, which I love. And then they have a competition going on for their left cornerback. This is the doppelganger secondary because they've got dudes named Kobe Bryant, who just switched over to free safety, and Michael Jackson, who's a good backup cornerback. They also have Artie Burns, came over from the Bears. One of Artie Burns, Michael Jackson, or Trey Brown will end up being a mediocre second corner, third best corner. Second corner is in he's on the boundary. Third is in if there's only 2 corners on the field, Witherspoon's going to be one of them. So I like the cornerbacks. I think that's a B+ cornerback room. And then Julian Love is a solid, not flashy safety. Rayshawn Jenkins is a solid B-, not flashy safety. So if the weakness of this defense is the pass defense, and you give me an excellent corner in Witherspoon, an explosive corner in Woolen, and decent everywhere else, this is not a weak defense. That's a solid defense.
Yeah, I think it's going to be solid. The figuring out the pass game is definitely going to be the biggest issue for them.
Yeah.
Especially when Mike McDonald, like the defense that he ran, they had some very good corners.
And very good safeties.
Yeah, so that's going to be the big adjustment he has to make. Now, it's going to be hard to run on this team, but I don't know. They might be kind of easy to pass on, or at least maybe not easy, but there are going to be opportunities and ways for them to get beat by a lot of better teams.
Yeah, look, they're not shutting down a good passing offense.
Yeah, and
But
that's
they're
why
also
I
not
think
Swiss cheese. They're not the Cardinals.
exactly. And that's why we can kind of wrap it up and talk about this number. But I think 7.5 is probably pretty good. I
Yeah.
might go 8.5. Like if I had to pick one, I'd go over, but this isn't really one that I want to bet on.
Exactly. So it's tempting when you see 7.5 and the same exact thing as the Cardinals to say, oh, they got to win more because they can't be the same as the Cardinals. But the reality is that we're getting the same angle by betting Cardinals under. And I don't think it's that the Seahawks are underrated. I think they're a 7-8 win team, maybe 9 if things shake out just right. I think that the Cardinals are a 4 or 5 win team. So I'm optimistic about Seattle. I think they're moving in the right direction. Personally, honestly, I think if Sam Howell started the whole season, they're a 9 or 10 win team. That could really jumpstart their rebuild. But I'm impressed with Seattle. I think they're moving the right direction. I just don't want to bet this win total because I can get a better deal by fading Arizona.
Yeah, exactly. I think they're in a really good spot for McDonald's first year.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of room to get better because they have good players that are young at key positions. Obviously, they got to figure out the D line for the future because a lot of those guys are older. They got to build up linebacker, but they've got some good young corners. They theoretically have a good young quarterback. And then they still have, a younger player in DK. I mean, he's mid-20s. And then, good tackles. So they have a good base. I don't know how great they're going to be this year, but this is a good team moving forward.
There's a lot to be excited about, and they're a very solid team. Next team?
Next team. And next up, we have the Los Angeles Rams with a projected win total of 8.5.
So my algorithm has them 13th. The Las Vegas power rankings also have the Rams 13. And then, by the way, when I mentioned that the media has a ranking, our boys over at Alphabets, Deep Value Better in particular, go follow him on Twitter. He provides awesome info. They rule. Sportfolio. It's dope.
Deep Value Better.
Deep
Good
Value
guy.
Better. They did a comprehensive ranking where they took like 30 different sources, media outlets, sports books, etc., compiled their power rankings, weighted them, did mathy magic to them, spit it out, and believe it or not, the Rams are also 13th in that rating. So everybody seems to agree that the Rams are 13th except me, because in my personal manual handmade rankings, I have the Rams at 7, and I think that they're one of the teams I will be most excited to bet on out of the entire season.
Why is that, Joe?
Well, put very simply, their coach is Sean McVay and their quarterback is Matthew fucking Stafford. And that's basically all you need. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Joe, 2 years ago, they had those two things and they didn't make the playoffs. Wrong. They lost their entire offensive line. They lost their entire receiving core. They even lost their quarterback, and Baker Mayfield still brought them to the brink of the playoffs without knowing where Los Angeles is on a map. So I defy you. I think this Rams team is going to be very, very tough to stop on offense, and defense sucks. Let's start with wide receivers. Everybody knows about Cooper Kupp. Remember a few years ago when Cooper Kupp won the Triple Crown and everybody's like, Cooper Kupp, best receiver in the NFL. And I was like, hold on, he's okay. Turns out he was okay. And nobody's going to thank me. Everybody will just stand on all of their cold takes. Puka Nacua, however, legitimately good. You combine the two, and there's a multiplier factor because now the Rams won the Super Bowl with one wide receiver who is 5'10" and not fast. Now they have that same guy plus one of the best contested catchers in the NFL. Like Puka Nacua might be the second coming of Anquan Bolden. Just so strong and so good hands. That's good English. I'm grammar. The third receiver is kind of a problem. They've got a competition going. Demarcus Robinson, who's like surprisingly old. He's like 32. He's currently the wide receiver 3, which makes him like the move wide receiver, the Z. I don't know if that works out. Tutu Atwell, who's legitimately 5'5". He's their deep threat. He is blazing fast, but the thing about being 5'5" is you can't reach the football. I would know. The third option, the dark horse, is Jordan Whittington. I'm not 5'5". I'm taller than Tutu Atwell, but not by enough. Jordan Whittington is a 6'1" rookie out of Texas, whom I love. Incredibly strong runner, incredibly strong hands. As we speak, he's currently lighting up the preseason game against the Cowboys, and people are talking about him, and I'm sitting here saying, I will not get excited about preseason games. I will not get excited about preseason games. I will not get excited about preseason games, but I'm a little excited about this preseason game. Jordan Whittington is kind of redundant because this offense lacks speed, and he's another really good player who is slow, and that's bad. But good is good, and Sean McVay is going to make good work. Speaking of slow, their tight ends, all of them, not good, but enough. Tyler Higbee has proven for, it feels like half a decade, that he is just mediocre enough to make this offense function properly. All in all, B-plus receiving core, plenty of depth, nobody really great, obviously lacking a speed element, so not how I would build an offense, but Sean McVay is really good at working with slow receivers.
Yeah, I feel like his archetype is the strong route runner, doesn't drop balls, knows how to find space.
Yeah.
And they have two very good guys at that in Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. After that, yeah, you don't really know, but you at least have two guys that have proven to be very good in this offense. So, yeah, I mean, I think B+ is probably fair. But if you have any injuries to Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua, you get scared real quick. But that's kind of any offense.
See, I don't, because I think Jordan Whittington could step in right now. He's so experienced. I think he was at Texas for 19 years. He was legitimately Texas's number one receiver for 3 years, and then stopped being their number one receiver because they got A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Worthy, but was still the most relied upon receiver of the group because he has great fucking hands and he's really strong and he runs excellent routes. Does that sound familiar? He's the exact same thing as Kupp. He's the exact same thing as Nacua. He does the same shit as both of them. So yeah, I doubt he'll be as good as Puka Nacua coming out as a rookie, but everybody doubted that Puka Nacua would be as good as Puka Nacua as a rookie because he's not that fast. He's just a really strong dude who's smart, like Jordan Whittington.
Very true.
So I like their depth. Moving to the offensive line. Quietly, they turned a weakness from the last few years into a remarkable strength. I love Alaric Jackson, left tackle, Iowa. Didn't get drafted because fat? I don't know. He was awesome in college. He's been awesome he's been good in the NFL. Who cares that he's fat? Rob Havenstein, speaking of fat, he's just been a good tackle for my life. It says he was drafted in 2015. That's a lie. It clearly means 2005. He has always existed in time immemorial. They just picked up Kevin Dotson from Pittsburgh, who's a big man. He's fine. And Jonah Jackson from Detroit. He's good. Steve Avila is moving back to center after bouncing around a little bit due to injuries. He's really good.
Probably Avila.
Dude, I was talking to my Californian girlfriend today, and I mentioned that the other night after a concert that I went to, I got birria tacos. Yeah, I got roasted bad.
Yeah, you should.
Well, then she did the whole tongue roll thing, and she's like, it's birria. And I'm like, I don't fucking play that shit. My tongue doesn't move that way. Regardless, Steve Birria Tacos is a good center. He's really good. And now their swing tackle is Joe Noteboom, who just like 2-3 years ago, they paid good money to be their franchise left tackle. So I love this line. They have at least one good depth player. They also have Connor McDermott in reserve and Alec Lindstrom. Like, they've got good backups. Those are backups, obviously. You don't want them to play, but God forbid something happens, it's not falling apart quickly. So I love this offensive line. I give it a high B+, maybe an A-.
I mean, I worry about that tandem of Avila and Dotson because Pittsburgh hasn't had a good line for a while, and there's a reason they let him go.
True.
Like, yeah, he's not really the problem. Maybe a little similar to Laken Tomlinson, where he's not going to tank your line, but he's not good. So I worry a little bit there, but they've got solid tackles, and I like Jonah Jackson. So I don't think the line's going to hurt them. And it has been such a weakness in previous years, and they've still been able to be productive. So who knows what happens with a above average line, but I still don't think it's like great.
I love it. But I also really like Steve Avila. Like, I loved him coming out of college. Last year as a rookie playing out of position at guard, he was good. Well, actually, no, he was a guard in college. Shit, he's out of position now. Whoops. But center is an easier position than guard. As long as you can handle it mentally, it is an easier physical position position, and he was good at guard. So I'm excited about what he'll do. He was solid last year as a rookie. I think he'll be good this year as a second-year player. You're right that none of these guys are stalwarts, but none of them are bad, and that's a huge deal. Quickly, I'll mention running backs. People love Kyron Williams. I don't. I think he's the definition of mid, but Sean McVay will always develop a running game as long as he's got a running back who knows generally where a hole is or what it's supposed to look like. And then I think if Blake Corum gets on the field, it's fucking over for you people, because I think Blake Corum is much, much better and a really good fit for this offense.
I was about to say, and if you're looking for a running back that knows where to go and follow his lanes, Blake Corum's pretty damn good for that.
Yeah. And he's more athletic than Kyron Williams. So why is he not starting? I don't know. It's crazy. Fucking Sean McVay is so frustrating. He's so brilliant, but so dumb all at the same time. Rise up. Matthew Stafford. This summer has kind of quietly been the summer of Matthew Stafford. People are starting to give him flowers that I've been begging them to give him for 6 or 7 years. And my instinct is to push back because CJ Stroud's oh, Matt Stafford better than Aaron Rodgers. And I'm well, now he is, yeah, but peak Aaron Rodgers was sick.
Yeah.
I hate Aaron Rodgers. I've thought he's overrated for 5-6 years now. But there were years before those years, and they were good. Matthew Stafford, I've loved for over a decade. One of the very reasons I began scouting quarterbacks is because I was frustrated in college that people didn't give Matthew Stafford credit. But
he went 1 overall.
Yeah, but then he got saddled with fucking moron coaches.
Oh yeah, once he was in Detroit, yeah, people didn't really appreciate him.
I said in college, not in elementary school. When he was drafted, I had not reached high school.
When you were in college, okay. I thought you meant in college. He wasn't appreciated in college. I was like, what are you talking about?
He was the most
player drafted.
He was one of the first guys that they were you should just not play this year and just go to the draft because he's that good. But no, he's lived up to the hype. I think the best way to describe Matthew Stafford's game is if it's 4th and 25, if it's 4th in any distance, and you need to throw the ball to one particular receiver because the other 4 are dead or something, like the Super Bowl against the Bengals when exactly this happened time and time again. If you need one quarterback ever in all of history to force the throw to that particular receiver, Matthew Stafford's your guy. The eye manipulation, the accuracy, the no-look passes, the arm angles. There's nobody who's ever done it as well. Now, he's not always as consistent as maybe an all-time great would be, and he makes some pretty dumb decisions sometimes, but he's still really, really good. And right now, at his, shall we say, advanced age, he's still a top 3 quarterback for my money right now. And I think last year he was top 3 and just people didn't notice because it's LA.
Yeah, I mean, he's been very good pretty much since he was drafted. It's just that now that he's in LA, he's been able to play with McVay and legitimate offenses. Yeah. His issue is just injury, but let's see.
Yeah, I mean, if Matthew Stafford gets hurt, but you can say the same thing about basically every team in the NFL. If they lose their superstar quarterback, the Bills are screwed and the Chiefs are screwed, and so are the Rams. And that's it. So the offense, I think this will be a top 5 offense. If you told me it was going to be the best offense, I would not blink. I'd say, yeah, that's okay. Yeah. They're going to score 30 a game.
I don't know if they'll be that good just because I don't know if they have the speed to be able to score that quickly.
Fair.
I don't know how much they have the big play ability, but I think they're going to be an incredibly hard offense to stop. And I feel like they are just going to chip away at teams and just feel like you're out there for extended drives and you can't do anything about it.
Well, I just realized I'd never thought of this until you said that. And that's why this podcast is fun. But remember how I just talked a few minutes ago about how if there's one quarterback on earth who can thread the needle and force the ball to a receiver who's not really open very much, it's Matt Stafford. They built him a wide receiving core made of dudes who aren't open that much, but they are very reliable once the ball's in their area, and they are good after the catch.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think he might uniquely be the best quarterback for this offense as built right now. Possible. The best possible quarterback for this particular offense.
Makes sense. They've had him for a few years that they would, build an offense around their superstar quarterback. But yeah, no, that's a good point of they have guys that are uniquely built for what he's good at.
Yeah, if you're going to force the ball to a guy, you'd like him to be, I don't know, really strong with sure hands and really smart and always knows what's up and then pretty good after the catch. And that's Cooper Kupp and that's Puka Nacua, and it might even be Jordan Whittington. So it's like they had a plan. Anyhow, on to the defensive side of the ball, which is last year was the worst defensive roster I've ever seen in my life, despite the fact that they had Aaron Donald, the best defensive player I've ever seen in my life, which is saying a lot. This year, they lost Aaron Donald, although stay woke. They be creeping. I believe that they going to find you, going to catch you sleeping. I think Aaron Donald's coming back. I think he'll play this year if they make the playoffs.
That would be insane if he just shows up for the playoffs. Is he allowed to do that? Can he play?
Yes. Remember when Eric Weddle did it and won the Super Bowl with the Rams?
Oh, yeah.
Like, he'd been retired for years, and they're just like, dude, fucking, I don't know, get out here.
I don't know if he was retired for years. It might have just felt like he was retired for years.
I think he was retired for 2 years. He was coaching high school.
That's insane.
What's insane is that his body held up at 38 years old after not playing for years. He just jumped in. He's fine. Retired again immediately after getting a ring.
He was staying in good shape.
Evidently. So they don't have the best defensive tackle I've ever seen in my life, but they exchanged him for Jared Verse, a very solid defensive end. I don't think he's great, but I think he's got some Jadeveon Clowney in him in that, like, he'll beat a blocker. He's very powerful. You won't push him off the ball, and occasionally he'll give you a sack. And then his best friend, like literally best friend and teammate at FSU, like they were a dynamic duo, Braden Fisk. They have him listed as a defensive end on here. He's a defensive tackle. He's a 3-tech. They drafted him in the second round. So, and Braden Fisk is just a athletic freak. Very big, very fast for his size. Holy shit. And he's got a motor on him. He keeps on hustling. And yes, his dad was a coach, and he brings his lunch pail to work, and he tries real hard, and he's quicker than he is fast, and he got reliable hands over the middle, all the things. He's a white defensive tackle. So that's, hey, 2 out of 4 is way better than they've had in years as far as good defensive linemen, because it's been Aaron Donald and practice squatters and backups for a long time. Bobby Brown is a good backup. Kobe Turner, I actually think Kobe Turner could be a good starter. I think he could be a B player, maybe even B plus. So they're a little bit like Seattle. They've built the defensive line out of dudes who you cannot run on, which is a move, I guess. It's a move.
I guess if you're building your team to try and beat San Francisco.
Additionally, new defensive coordinator. It is no longer Raheem Morris and his soft ass cover 4 bullshit, giving up easy passes all the goddamn time. It will now be Chris Shula, who I know nothing about other than love and honor. They were roommates at Miami, McVay and Shula.
He's like Don Shula's great grandson or something, or not great grandson, but like,
I think it's grandson or grandnephew or something.
Yeah, he's related to him.
He's related to Don Shula, so clearly he knows how to win football games and draft Dan Marino. He does.
It's just aura.
Yeah, he's got the Dan Marino drafting aura. He's got it. So I don't really know what the defense will look like. It looks like they're switching to a 4-3 instead of a 3-4. I don't know that to be the case, though. Whatever the case is, I like their chances of stopping the run, and holy shit, anybody but Raheem Morris means that maybe converted defensive tackle Michael Hecht, who pronounces his name Hoyt for some reason, because he doesn't know German, he will no longer be a converted defensive tackle dropping into coverage. Why did he ever drop into every single third down? It seemed like they dropped him into coverage and he got exploited by, I don't know, anybody, because he's a defensive tackle who tries really hard and has his coach's son. He gets to practice first, leave last, he's a white guy. Anything is better than what Raheem Morris did there. So kudos. Good job, Atlanta Falcons. You've only fucked up every facet of the offseason. Moving to the off-ball linebackers. See, this depth chart doesn't know what we're doing here because it's got Byron Young, an edge at linebacker. Decent edge, B edge, very athletic, should pair really nicely with Jared Verse. I'm optimistic. But the real linebackers are going to be Ernest Jones, super athletic, maybe not the best in coverage because he's not that clever, but there's potential and he's still super young. And then Christian Roseboom, who is just the definition of C+ journeyman player. He'll start. He won't be the problem. He won't be the solution. So that front seven is, I think you could say it's mediocre. And I think that that's the best you've been able to say about it in some time.
Yeah, I think mediocre is the ceiling. Like, I think the D-line does have its, or the front seven, I guess, in general, should be able to stop the run pretty well. But Look, I don't know how they're getting any pressure out of those guys. It's got to all be schemed.
Yeah, and that's the problem, right? Is like Jared Verse is a good player, but he's not going to get you a ton of sacks because he just doesn't have bend like that, and he's not that quick. He's not a finesse rusher. And then, Braden Fisk, I love him. He's a defensive tackle. So I just remember, defensive line is like a sword. You need a sharp edge, and they got some edges that aren't dull, but they don't have a sharp point. Aaron Donald though would be a sharp point theoretically if he came back. Theoretically, who knows? Guy's 29.
Yeah, who knows, man? He might start watching those games on TV and being like, "Oh God."
Well, I mean, apparently you saw the Sean McVay interview on Pardon My Take. Apparently Aaron Donald's texting like, I kind of want to play. And Sean McVay is texting back like, fucking come play.
You don't have to do anything. Just show up on Sundays.
You're already on the salary cap, dude. You don't have to practice. Just
Yeah, we're already paying you.
we're already paying you. Just put on some fucking, just skip a couple workouts one week and come play an NFL game as like a light cardio. So the front seven is B minus to maybe B if things work out. Like it's not good, but it might not be a problem.
Yeah.
The secondary is the exact same motherfucking thing, and it's beyond me how this keeps happening. Your cornerbacks are going to be whatever is left of Tre'Davious White, which might just be the crust. Darius Williams, who is still only 5'8", and like him and John Johnson III are doing the let's go back to LA and see if we can recreate the magic of winning a Super Bowl despite not being very good because we played in a very sheltered cover 4 scheme that didn't ask us to do anything. And it's probably not going to work. Look, Darius Williams is a decent slot. He's very tiny. He's very smart in zone, but he's not physical and he's not athletic. How does that work? It doesn't. Tre'Davious White, as recently as like 3 years ago, I considered a top 5 corner. Easily. Maybe even best. But then he got injured like 3 straight years, like big injuries. And what's left of him? I don't know if he can walk.
And he hasn't been very good when he has played the last couple of years.
Exactly. And you can say like, well, he was hurt. And it's like, true, he was hurt. But if you keep on being hurt, when does it stick and you're just always hurt now? Like
exactly.
At some point, you're going to lose your speed and never be the same. Happens. So yeah, I don't think he's going to be the Tre'Davious White, but I do think he'll be decent. He can't be bad. Like we've never seen Tre'Davious White be bad.
Yeah, but he's another year older. I mean, I think he'll be all right, but yeah. I think he could fall apart.
It's just as likely to me that he totally falls apart as it is that he puts together a 6 season.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, I think we agree. Like he's probably going to be fine. Then you've got a few hope guys. Kobe Durant, he shows me some things. He's actually probably the fastest dude in the secondary left, which is not saying anything. Kobe Durant has some upside. He's intriguing, but he's not good. Quentin Lake is not good. Trey Tomlinson is not good. Jerry Jacobs, ha ha ha. So they've got a lot of C players behind their B to B minus players, leading me to say their corners are below average, but not a disaster, but below average.
Yeah, definitely below average.
And then their safeties, tell me if you've heard this one before. Cameron Curl, below average. Like, he's smart, but he's not athletic. He's not good in coverage. He's really good against the run, but he's Cameron Curl. He's smart. And John Johnson III, he's smart. He's not good. He's not athletic. He's not very good against the run, but he's also not very good against the pass anymore. But he's smart. So their whole secondary right now is built of like, he knows the scheme. He's pretty smart. He's not going to get fucked up he's not going to get lost in busted coverage, but he's probably not going to, his guy is probably going to be open.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's what they've done in the secondary for a long time, pretty much since McVay's been there. They've mostly just got guys that are smart and know where to be, maybe are slow to being there because they're not very athletic, but they get there.
Remember and Marcus Peters?
I was about to say, except for the one, the occasional complete outlier like Marcus Peters or Jalen Ramsey to an extent. But I don't know. I mean, I think, again, the secondary should be able to help in the run because Cameron Curl's good in the run. I think John Johnson actually does all right in the run. But yeah, they're going to struggle in the pass game because they're not really going to be able to get after the quarterback and they're not going to be able to cover guys for very long. So I definitely worry about that for that side of the defense. But I think they will be able to stop the run pretty consistently.
They'll stop the run pretty well. I don't know what they have at defensive coordinator, but I have to imagine it's about the same or better than last year. Like it doesn't get worse than fuck it, cover 4 every play. Like it's hard to get worse than that. So we'll see. But yeah, I think the Rams defense stop me if you've heard this before, is bad but not disastrous. I think they're going to need to score 30 points a game to get to the playoffs, but I do also think they'll do that. Like,
Yeah, this is going to be a fun team to watch on Red Zone.
yeah, and they're going to be in red zones a lot.
Yeah.
I'm also excited because rumors are that Sean McVay has resolved to do two new things. Sean McVay is like notoriously very smart, but also kind of a fucking head case and sometimes kind of a fucking coward. And it's very frustrating to root for his teams because he's kind of a fucking coward. Apparently in the last summer or so, he's realized two things. One, I need to get more aggressive on offense. I need to pass this ball. I have Matt Stafford. I got to use Matt Stafford, which is good because that's the right way to run this offense. And then two, he's learned that he's a bitch on fourth down. And he is. Sean McVay is one of the most conservative fourth down coaches. He makes terrible decisions. And it extends even into his third down play calling because on third and long, he's like, ooh, let's just run it and punt rather than like, let's set up a nice makeable fourth down. He's been talking in interviews a lot about how he wants to fix that. He hired a new analyst, statistician guy. So get this. So you know how Vrabel is the king of the coward punt?
Sure.
Last year, as like a last ditch save my job effort, he hired an analyst like consultant to do the fourth down stuff for him and just give him suggestions, not demands, but suggestions. And
Sure.
Vrabel statistically went from the most cowardly coach in the NFL for years to top 5 least cowardly on fourth down. I'm sure some of that is because the Titans weren't as good last year, so like it was more excusable to punt. But hey, if he made Vrabel tap his balls, think of what he'll do with McVay. And also, like, you either know fourth down consulting or you don't. It's not like, oh, he's a good fourth down math guy. He's a bad one. Like, no, if you have the math guy, you're doing way better than most people. So good. If McVay gets more aggressive, I think he can steal at least one extra win, maybe even two. I think that if they pass the ball more aggressively and are going for it on fourth down, I think that equates to like 2 or 3 extra wins this year over last year, just because a lot of the time the offense had to win in spite of McVay's decision making. It's tough to bet. It's tough to bet on a team that you don't think will win the division to go over 8.5. But I kind of want to.
Yeah, I mean, again, if I had to pick, I'd go over. But I think it's similar to how I feel about Seattle in that I'd go over, but I don't feel strong enough to bet it. With the Rams, just because, man, that defense scares the shit out of me. You have a new coordinator. You don't really have anyone that can cover. You don't really have anyone that can get after the quarterback. You're going to be good in the run, but the pass game is going to be a mess. And you're going to have to score 30 points every game to win. Now, I think they'll be able to do that a lot. That's why I'd probably go over. But that's a scary proposition. And with Stafford being older, having the back problems and everything,
Yep.
Who knows? It might be week 9 and fucking Stetson Bennett is running that offense.
Well, and that's the thing is like, we don't have to make season win total bets to find value. We found value. We think the Rams are a little underrated. We think a piece of them is going to be special, the offense. So we can just fucking bet on that. Like,
exactly. Like it's a team that we'll bet on with matchups. And if Stafford is playing, I think we're going to have an angle. But if Stafford goes out, then we probably stop betting on them entirely like we have in previous years.
Exactly. Yeah. Like 8.5 is not far enough. Like I would set this line at 9.5, maybe 10. But one game of cushion is not enough when you're dealing with an old quarterback and a bad defense, or at least a below average defense.
Yeah, like the teams we have picked. If you look at Tennessee, where their number's 5.5, and we probably put them at like 8.5.
Yeah.
And Arizona, they're at 7.5, and we probably put them at 4.5 or 5.5.
Yeah.
And who's the other one we have?
Pittsburgh is at 8.5, and I would put them at 5.
Exactly. So like we're taking teams when they're at like 3-ish wins, 2.5, 3-ish wins.
Yeah.
Off of the number. This isn't a big enough difference. So I think we just move on.
Yep. Like Rams are fun. They're fun to talk about, but we do not have a season win total angle. That said, I'm probably going to bet on them a fucking lot in the season.
Yeah. I was going to say, I imagine that's going to, obviously matchups come into play, but I feel like we're going to be betting on the Rams a lot in the first few weeks.
Broken record, man. Like we do this every year. To the kings of the unfortunate kings of the NFC West and the NFC in general.
Let's do it. And to finish out the NFC West, we have the San Francisco 49ers.
Boo.
Projected win total of 11.5.
All right, 11.5. The typical, this team is totally going to win their division win total. The aforementioned media composite that Deep Value Better put together for us, Sportfolio Kings, hit them up. They have good info. has San Francisco as the second-ranked team in the NFL, which makes sense because last year they finished the season in second. Vegas disagrees. Oh, they have them at third. I also have them at third. My algorithm has them at third. They are third. If you know where that reference came from, you're laughing hysterically, but I won't say it on YouTube. The 49ers are still the 49ers. Nothing has changed. A couple things. Some things have changed. Not that many things have changed. One thing might change. We don't know where Brandon Ayuk's playing.
Nobody has any idea where he's playing.
If you follow the money, he's a Patriot, but Ricky says that he's a Steeler, and that doesn't make any sense. And he wants to be a Commander because he wants to play with Jaden Daniels. Players make bad decisions. Honestly, my inkling is he's just going to continue to play for the best team in the NFC, continue to make some fucking money and win a lot of games. Because if it was just about the money, he'd be in New England right now making 32 a year.
Yeah, I think he wants to get traded to like 4 teams. And if he doesn't get traded to one of those 4 teams, he just wants to stay in San Francisco and get a new deal.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to go to, I don't think he wants to go to Pittsburgh because I think he would already be there.
Oh, apparently Pittsburgh won't ante up. The report is that he said that the 3 teams who like gave remotely decent offers were Cleveland. He said no because he doesn't like Watson. New England. He said no because he doesn't like Brissett and May. And then Pittsburgh. And he said yes, but Pittsburgh won't give up enough. Apparently the 49ers want George Pickens. It's a whole thing. Like, why would you trade George Pickens for Brandon Ayuk? I don't get that. Like, just it's a lateral move. Stay lateral.
Unless you think that George Pickens is going to
hold out in training camp for money. Like be some kind of malcontent off the field that disrupts chemistry and is a distraction to the team. Yeah, you don't want George Pickens to do that. Better get Brandon Ayuk.
Well, I was going to say do some sort of crime that's going to put him in prison, a la highly drafted players that play for the Raiders.
Well, I don't know if they have Panda Express in Pittsburgh, so I think we're safe. Worth noting that Deebo Samuel did the exact motherfucking thing last year, and he's still a 49er. Would you imagine that?
Yeah,
so it could all be nothing.
And I think that's what Ayuk just wants. Like, he's like, if I don't get to go one of my handful of teams, I'm just doing this to try and get you to pay me like you did for Deebo last season.
Let's pretend that Brandon Ayuk is gone. Let's look at the depth. Deebo Samuel is not a great receiver. He might not even be a good receiver in most offenses, but in this one, where they basically can turn any play into a jet sweep, he's very good. Juwan Jennings is the consummate big slot. Just great hands, big body, understands how to sit down in zones. Not fast at all. Tight end speed, but open, catches the ball. Ronnie Bell out of Michigan. I love him. Deep threat. I think he's got a lot to give. Ricky Pearsall, Florida, first-round pick. I love him. Super fast. Great hands. Tall. Why is this guy not a higher pick? He tries real hard. First one in, last one out. He's a white guy. Jacob Cowing. I love Jacob Cowing. He's tiny, but he's fast. Out of Arizona. He's very fast, and it's fun. So they've got like 6 dudes, again, who you think that's not the worst receiver.
I mean, I know these guys both have not really done anything last few years, but Chris Conley and Robbie Chosen are both dudes that have done productive things. I don't think they're going to be any part of this offense. I'm going to pump the brakes.
But I'm going to pump the brakes. Robbie Chosen is insane.
He is. He's absolutely insane.
This is his 5th name in 3 years. Not team, name. This is the 3rd different place he's put Chosen in his name. He was Chosen Anderson. He was Robbie Chosen Anderson. And now he's Robbie Chosen. This man is a caricature. He's the dude from Don't Be a Menace. He really is. He got the same fucking hair. He's insane. He makes me feel like maybe I'm on drugs because he can't be real. Do not count Robbie Chosen amongst these people. But you're right. Chris Conley is a fine depth receiver. So they've got options, and it's also Kyle Shanahan. He will turn any of those options into a good option. Don't forget George Kittle. Don't forget Christian McCaffrey, who would have been a top 10 pick as a wide receiver if he never played running back in his life. This is a very good receiving core, especially for the scheme that they are given. The 49ers will never have to worry about offense because even if all these guys left, Kyle Shanahan would turn anybody into a star. He can do it. He will find a way. And these guys are legitimate stars. But like, God forbid something happened to Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell. I'm confident that he could turn Matt Breida into a top 10 rusher, maybe even a top 5 rusher. It's what he does. Matt Breida is fast. That's all he needs. He did it with Raheem Mostert. Mike McDaniel's still doing it with Raheem Mostert.
I feel like Raheem Mostert, Jerick McKinnon, and Matt Breida have all been like that same type of player of like, he's very fast. He gets hurt all the time, but occasionally he ends up in a Shanahan offense, and we go, holy shit, this guy's insane.
And then you get a real running back like Christian McCaffrey or Devon Achane in there, and you're like, oh no, that's insane.
Exactly.
That's better than a passing attack. Okay, we agree. Sick weapons. Offensive line. This was, I don't want to say the Achilles heel because it wasn't the Achilles heel. Nothing was. Brock Purdy kind of was, but we'll get to that later.
To say. Yeah, there kind of was.
They've improved the offensive line a little bit. Jake Brendel's another year older. Aaron Banks another year older. Trent Williams still awesome. It's not right. I don't understand how he's this good. The man had cancer. He had cancer in his head, and it made him, he didn't die. He didn't get worse. He didn't get sick. He just got mad and moved. That's it. And then he gets hurt and he comes back and he's like, I'm just going to be the best fucking left tackle of all time again. It's not even hard. So he's ridiculous. Colton McKivitz and Chris Hubbard are the right tackles. It's probably going to be Colton McKivitz. Hey, it could be worse. That's a C to C plus tackle. And then rookie Dominic Pooney and John Feliciano are battling it out for right guard. Hey, it's better than Spencer Buford. So I think it'll be outside of Trent Williams. I think it'll be a C plus to B minus line. But then you add Trent Williams, an A plus. Suddenly it's fine. Like we talk a lot about in this podcast. We've talked about how offensive line's like a net. If you have a hole in the net, you have no net, right? You just have a hoop. But A, it's Kyle Shanahan. He's smart enough to kind of flip that on its head. And B, Trent Williams is that good. Like Trent Williams, you can put on an island and he will stone a guy, and then you can double everybody else.
Yeah, see, like I think the line without Trent Williams is probably more like a C or a C minus.
Agreed.
But then you do put in Trent Williams and he covers a lot of that up. Plus, George Kittle is incredibly good in the run game.
Yep.
And is almost an offensive lineman in and of himself. So I think that does take a lot of the pressure off and turns the kind of blocking group into more like a B minus or a B.
They also actually use a fullback in Kyle Juszczyk,
yeah,
which is a really big help to your offensive line.
Yeah, definitely. So that's where I think that out of scheme and the few players that aren't the replacement guys, it turns it into a solid, very usable line that's not going to wreck your team.
Breaking news. Mr. President, the San Francisco 49ers are going to have a really good offense because Kyle Shanahan's their coach. We're shocked. Like, yeah, it's not... Brock Purdy is the weakness. We saw it in the Super Bowl. Actually, I don't know if I've told this story on the pod yet because we took a hiatus at the end of last year. I was in San Francisco for the Super Bowl. I know it sucks. Apologize
no one was
to me.
More upset about it than you.
Apologize to me online. Tweet at me and say, I'm sorry you had to go to San Francisco and watch the Super Bowl. It was terrible. I was in a bar, a 49ers bar, a very nice one, a big one. And before the game, because I got there early, every time they'd put Brock Purdy's face on the TV, the entire bar of 500 or so people would erupt in chants of MVP. Now, believe this or not, my girlfriend doesn't know anything about football. She must love hearing my voice very much. So she asks why they're doing that, and I explain they don't understand. But when they lose, it will be that guy's fault. And she's like, and that's what MVP means? And I don't know. MVP means most valuable player. And they're dramatically confused. They have no idea why they're good. Turns out, yeah. You have to complete a pass of more than 7 yards in the second half or overtime. Got to do it. Couldn't do it. So he will eventually be the reason they lose, but it won't happen until the playoffs. So who cares? Yeah. And then they'll give him $60 million a year and destroy their franchise.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to just grind teams. We're talking about methodical offense kind of with the Rams. This is going to be that, but with that big playability as well, if only because they have so many guys that are elite with the ball in their hands after the catch or whatever scheme play to get the ball. I was going to say,
Kyle Shanahan can decide you're going to bust a coverage and make you do it.
Exactly. So, I mean, that offense is going to be very good again with potential to be truly elite if that offensive line rounds into form and like Ricky Pearsall really explodes, Ayuk stays. They could be, I mean, you were talking about best offense in the league with the Rams. I think this could be the best offense in the league simply because
Absolutely.
Brock Purdy just has to hand the ball off.
Or like throw to a guy with nobody within 10 yards of him, 15, 20 yards downfield.
Exactly.
So, yeah, no, they're going to be sick. Kyle Shanahan is a fucking genius, and having an amazing head coach is like most of the battle these days. On to defense. Last year, the defense took a big step back. And you know who we have to thank for it? I don't. So please fill in the name here.
I think they had Steve Wilks.
Is it Steve Wilks or is it Joe Woods? The podcast's eternal battle continues. It was Steve Wilks.
I was about to say, I'm pretty sure it was Steve Wilks because that's where Joe Woods was before.
Correct.
He was there, then he went to Cleveland. Isn't he in Tennessee now? Where is he now? AFC West, actually, I think. Because I think we just talked about him.
Saints.
Oh, wow, never mind. We talked about him forever ago.
But he's not calling plays because McCoy. Anyhow, they got Nick Sorensen in there. Remember Nick Sorensen?
Like the strong safety?
Yep.
Is that's the same guy? Wasn't he playing like last year?
Not last year, but he won Super Bowls with the Chiefs, so it was recently.
That's crazy. Good for him.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about a guy who really tries hard.
Are you sure it's the same guy?
I think it might be his brother.
Let's say I don't think it's the same guy.
Nah, this guy's a little
because
older.
Daniel Sorensen is
Daniel Sorensen.
City.
I think it's his brother. There can't be two Sorensens that both played in Virginia that are strong safeties, and they're not related. Regardless, we've diverged. From all I've heard, Nick Sorensen is a much more aggressive defensive coordinator. They'll run a lot more man. They'll run a lot more cover too. Hey, maybe. It can't get worse. It really can't. They'll also get a lot healthier on the defensive line, but they'll lose a piece on the defensive line. Your starting edges are now going to be Nick Bosa, very good, overrated, but very good, and Leonard Floyd.
How does he keep getting starting jobs?
People keep on running out of starting edges and being like, hey, who's that 6'5" guy over there who's pretty fast? He could play, right? And they're like, nah, he actually kind of can't. And they're like, well, we are kind of out of options, so he's going to have to try.
He at least looks like he could play.
That's exactly it. He looks the part, and then people are like, why not? They do have Drake Jackson, but he's hurt again. I want him to get on the field so badly. Regardless, what the fuck was Young's? Chase Young. I wanted to say Bryce Young, and I was like, that is not the position he ever could play. I don't think Bryce Young could be a defensive end in high school right now. So you got Nick Bosa, and you got, instead of Chase Young, who was okay. He was explosively great, but also mostly bad. And then Leonard Floyd, who's bad. He's like a C+. Then the inside is better. Malik Collins and Javon Hargrave, with a dose of Jordan Elliott, I guess, is better than Javon Hargrave and Javon Kinlaw. They lost Eric Armstead. He's a solid, good player, but he's not special. I don't think they'll miss him. I think Malik Collins is a similar caliber player. The defensive line will be a B+. It'll be good. I don't think they can live off of it, but it'll be good. And then they're going to get back, at some point, they're going to get Dre Greenlaw back. Fred Warner is sick, the best. And Devondre Campbell is actually kind of the perfect complement because those are two fast, rangy linebackers, and then Campbell will just clean up the slop. He's really good at cleaning up the slop.
Yeah, shockingly, they have a good linebacker room yet again.
Talanoa Huafunga is going to be healthy again. He was awesome last year, and then he got hurt just in time for all the games that mattered. That's not good. He'll be back. Hopefully, he'll stay healthy. That's good. But then their other safety is going to be either Tracy Walker or G. Ayer Brown. I don't fucking know who that is. I don't talk on dudes who I don't know, but that doesn't sound good because I've never heard of them. Additionally, this is a constant theme with the 49ers. Their secondary is just not good.
They do not give a shit about cornerback at all.
Well, I love Charvarius Ward. He's a really good corner. Really good. But then opposite him is going to be one of the following. Isaac Yiadom. Go BC Eagles, but not good. He's like a third or fourth corner, a good third or fourth corner, but it looks like he's going to be two. Diamador Lenore. We've been making fun of this man for years, and he keeps on playing. Or Rock Yassin, who is a mediocre slot, and they might have to play him on the outside. Ideally, Rock Yassin is a great 4. He's going to be a 2 or a 3, maybe. So you're going to be able to pass the ball on this team. The defense won't be great. I think it's tough to drop them lower than 3 because it's a weak NFL, and Kyle Shanahan is still Kyle Shanahan. But the defense won't be great. It'll be okay. The offense will be really good, but their quarterback is a problem. So I don't know how well San Francisco does against good I don't know how they'll fare against good teams. Like if they play the Bills, the Chiefs, see, the list is kind of short. Even the Rams, I think they'll struggle with. I don't know how they beat teams that can put up a lot of points, but because eventually it's going to get to a quarterback battle, and they have the lesser quarterback most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what we've seen with the Kyle Shanahan 49ers, which is the offense is incredible outside of the quarterback, and they can win a ton of games. They can beat good teams, but then when they play the really good teams, they fall apart or they just can't get it done.
Yeah, they're close every time. It's just you can only ball control and pray for good defense for so long when you're playing a great quarterback or a great offensive head coach.
Yeah, eventually your mediocre quarterback is going to make a mistake.
Yeah, it turns out having a mediocre at best quarterback isn't good for your team. Might not necessarily be bad for it, but it's certainly not good for it. Anyway, I'm not touching this win total.
No.
But honestly, it's tough to bet on the 49ers because they are really good. I have them as the third-ranked team. I agree with Vegas. I just think that they are going to lose to teams 1 and 2 almost every time.
Yeah. I mean, I think as far as betting on them, it's very similar to the Chiefs, where everyone knows they're really good. And in the regular season, they're pretty much always going to win those games because there isn't really anyone better than them.
I do think there's some value in betting on the Ravens, and probably not the Chargers just because they're so bad, and the Seahawks when they play against Kyle Shanahan offenses, because they will stop the run and they will force you to make your quarterback be good. And Brock Purdy's not good. Tua's not good. When you ask these Kyle Shanahan quarterbacks to really play quarterback and pass first, they struggle a lot. So file that away for your season-long handicapping. However, I think we've wrapped up the NFC West. Shall we officially do our outro?
Let's do it. All right, so wrapping up on the NFC West, we have one official bet, which is Arizona under 7.5 wins. Joining our other bets for the offseason, which are Tennessee over 5.5 wins and Pittsburgh under 8.5 wins.
And the Chargers under 8.5.
And the Chargers under 8.5. So that takes us up to 4 picks with 2 divisions to go.
Not bad.
Not bad. Nice.
Very nice. Wait. 4 divided by 6. That's like, what, 67%? That's almost as high as my ROI so far this season. I can't get over it. It's so fun.
The fall when we have that stretch where it feels like we can't win any bets for like 3 weeks.
The inevitable November skid is going to sting, but hopefully by then we've continued to build up such a cushion that it doesn't fucking matter.
Exactly. All right. Well, coming back next week, jumping over to the AFC East with our penultimate episode.
I believe that actually will be the penultimate episode. Yes, indeed. I'm excited. We're doing AFC East first. A lot to talk about. A lot of stuff I don't like. I basically
hate. We know are the most fun episodes.
I hate every team in that division for a different reason. Half of them personal, half of them football. Actually, no, it's 3 football and 1 personal. That's the NFC West. I think it's going to be a good division. I think that the Seahawks have value. I think the Rams have a little value. I think the 49ers are obviously very good. And I think that fading Kyler Murray has never served me wrong. So with that, I think I'm going to make a video tonight, actually, breaking down some of the rookie quarterbacks that I graded during the preseason because I was violently hungover yesterday after the concert and watched football all day and made a ton of fucking money. So I got film. I could talk about it. Other than that, for the next 6 days, I'll be grinding film and preparing for the regular season. And until then, I say, please bet on some preseason football games. Hasta.